the YouTube channel have a little playback on the sessions. And yeah, we're just here to learn from each other, and yeah, we collaborate, and it's more together is the big message here.
Yeah, and that was a great segue to something I wanted to say. Thank you for that excellent summary of our Tech Time chats, Jonathan. You guys may think, well, who's the leader? And I got to tell you, it's not me. From the very beginning, we decided we wanted to live a spirit of more together. So everyone at every level is welcome. You may even think, well, I thought it was all pretty much data, people in data. Yeah, but if another STEMite just enjoyed being part of us, we're not going to turn them away, and they're probably going to use data specialization work in their work anyway. Now, if you want to point the finger at one leader, it's probably Magdi, because she controls the schedule. You want to get on the schedule to do something, you got to go through Magdi. Now, we review it in the Steward Committee, but notice we call it a Steward Committee because we're here to serve one another. And the Steward Committee, you know, there's just some people that we've asked to say, help us know how to serve the family better. Because Gaith and I don't, and Manpreet, who's just taking some breaks, she's normally here. She's a big reason why we exist. We don't want to have a spirit of, oh, it's what Thom thinks it's important. No. Gaith and I don't want to rely on our own perspectives about what you guys need. We want to hear from you. We want to help one another. And I think Gaith and I could honestly say, we're, as the big brothers of this group, or the dads of this group, we're growing probably as much or more than you guys as we seek to help one another. So I just wanted to throw that out. Yes.
We're already on YouTube right now. First of all, and first I want to welcome everyone who was the first time to join, and welcome everyone who's normally joining us, because this is part of the family. The other thing, I think, since we are talking about what we need as a family, but this session, it's for me. Okay, because I need this session. Okay, and today we have in-house from our family. Our guests will be from our family, and no surprise, Thom, he's the speaker for today, and I'm gladly happy that I'm hosting this session with Greg. And Greg, how we plan to host it, once I'm silent, Greg, he will jump because he will cover me, because I'm, yes, most of the time I will be silent. I will keep myself silent. Okay. The session today, it's about decision metrics. And why I'm saying this session is for me, because I have a lot of questions in my life, my personal life, in small scale and large scale, that it needs help to make a decision about it. Now, once the first question comes to my mind when I read the decision matrices, okay, when we are able to use these matrices, when the cost of developing the matrix is useful, that means we are happy to pay that cost. This is the first question. But I think to answer this question, we have to go through the whole session. So Thom, it's your time. Thank you. And I will try to get your questions over the chat. And also, if anybody has a question, please use the raise hand option that will help us to manage. Yes, exactly this one, just like what Thom did. This will help us to get your question on time. Thom, thank you.
Excellent. Okay. Now, imagine you've had this new popularity thrown on you on LinkedIn, as I have, and you start getting a lot of messages. Thom, can you help me make this major life decision for me? Hell no. That's scary. I don't want to make a major life decision for you. If you say to me, Thom, will you help me go catch fish for my family. I'm going to tell you I want to, but I have to catch fish for my family. But I can teach you how to fish. Why don't you come fish with me? That's like what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you how to go about making a major life decision as objectively as possible and do so better than if I were helping you. However, what I also do is when someone asks me to help them with a major life decision, I say, please go study how to make a decision matrix and then share that with me on Google Sheets like I'm going to share with you. And then I say, share that with me and I'll help you improve it. Well, I won't name any names, but a very close friend to Guy and I, who's younger, asked me for life advice. And I said, hey, go study how to make a decision matrix and then come back to me. And I hadn't heard from him in a while. I said, hey, did you want, he said, Thom, when I started to make the decision matrix, even before I finished it, I realized creating the decision matrix helped me know what I needed to do. So thank you so much. And I was like, excellent. That's awesome. That's what I'm just so glad to hear that. So it's nice because this is a tool. If you know our quality assurance engineer friends, quality engineer friends, they are the types of engineers that give us yellow belt, green belt, black belt certifications for Lean Six Sigma. They have this huge tool set of great analytical tools. And two of those tools are decision matrices and the six thinking hats. If you saw my DSGO talk, you saw how much I love the six thinking hats. And my son Hugo here and I are going to teach a session on the six thinking hats too. By the way, before I forget, if you're, help me see, we want to say hi to Kaishan because it's his first time, our Caribbean friend. And yeah, good. Okay, let me share my screen and we'll start talking decision matrices. By the way, this is long overdue. For some reason, we have really had a hard time getting to, oh, Amir, thank you. And you're saying, but oh yeah, we want to introduce every new person to the group. So Amir, thank you for saying that you're new. So everyone welcome Amir. And you don't need to tell me that privately next time, anyone. And if I don't answer you in the chat, it's because I'm busy presenting today. All right. Share screen, and we'll go to, okay, yes. Okay, this is, are y'all seeing me okay there? I think you are. Thank you. I see the thumbs up. I'm gonna broaden your faces here because it helps me to see your faces. Okay, I'm in cell B2, correct? Y'all see that? Okay. You got a major life decision to make. Now this can be living, meaning we'll create an initial version, but you can come back to it. I have used this to decide which house to buy. I have helped my son-in-law figure out which job to take. I have used it to decide which job I was going to take when I had multiple offers. It's amazingly powerful. And you can take something that seems very subjective and move it much closer to the objective realm. So this is really key. By the way, it's great if you take notes, but I will share this notebook, or excuse me, this spreadsheet, and these sessions are recorded, but I think you're going to get it. So one thing, and we're probably going to bend this as we go, what are our options? Now I'm going to be, I hope this is okay, but I'm going to be kind of generic. I'm just going to, for now, I'm just going to say option one. And we can throw a real world example at this because we will have time to do that. There we go. Oh, for the fun of it, I probably could have done this and it would have figured it out. Yeah, let's do this for the fun of it. Oh my, spreadsheets are so dang smart. I hope y'all saw me do that. Yeah, just drag it. We'll go ahead and say there's 5 options. Now, there's also the aspects. We won't actually worry about naming them right now, having a name for them, but let's just say there's aspect 1. Now, we are going to do a real world example. And I'd like y'all to be thinking of a real world example you'd like to take us through. And we can do that specific one if you want us to. And it doesn't have to be personal. It can just be something simple. Now, what do I mean by aspect? Well, let's say it was the house you wanted to buy. Which house? You've gone and looked at 5 houses. We've got 5 options here. And you and your significant other are trying to decide, oh, well, which of these houses should we go with? Well, you might think, oh, location. Yeah, but does that really help you? How about we break that aspect in what do you most want to be close to? Well, you may say, oh, well, I'm Muslim and I want to be close to my mosque. That's what's most important to me. I'd rather be closer to my mosque than to my workplace. Then that's what you would put there. Just now you actually have a numerical value you can work with. Distance to mosque. That makes it much more objective. Your next location parameter could be distance to work, but you might be thinking, oh, there's distance to my work and distance to my significant other's work. You see what you can begin to do. You can break these down into multiple things. Maybe there's a gym or a place that your family goes. Let's say you all do martial arts together, or something like that. You want to be close to that, or you all have a favorite grocery store and you love shopping there, so you want to be close to that. You can take all these factors into account for distance. Now, number of bedrooms. You might have said, no, we don't need to put that on here. We only looked at homes that had the number of bedrooms we need. Great. You can eliminate that. Number of bathrooms. Now we get there. You know, some of the houses we looked at had more bathrooms than others. How do we want to grade that? Obviously, price is going to be an aspect. And you can be completely numerical. Now, Val, I'm going to put you on the spot because you're a good student. I put Greg on the spot earlier, so I'm putting you on the spot now. Valerie, would I really want to put the prices, or should I do some numerical trickery to the prices? What numerical trickery could I do?
I guess, okay, I've got to answer 2 ways. I guess if, for me, I would just put the actual price.
There you go.
You know, that's what I would do. I wouldn't do any numerical trickery because I don't want to think, I don't want to, I think what it is, I'm being a purist here with this because to me, this is like a big decision, like with buying the house. And I guess I would be looking more as not just the if we go with the house example, not just that you know, solid price that you come through, but then I would be looking at, well, should I be checking out, you know, different real estate agents, or should I be looking at what other things influence that price so that I can be trying to get the best price for that
Valerie,
situation.
I'm gonna see as if we go through here, you go, oh, Thom, I realize now because of what you're teaching us, I do want to do some numerical trickery here, but we'll come to that later.
Okay.
Now, let's say I get all these aspects, and the next thing I want to do.
But if I may, Thom, sorry for interrupting, but
it's okay.
Given what Valerie said about the price, and she said something very, very interesting. It would be the price, if the price is higher, to be more clear, but the agent is better. Between a bad agent and a good agent, and a little larger price than for a bad agent. So how do you count Is the price higher or smaller? And also what you said about the distance. Okay, you can put in Excel, in the spreadsheet, the distance, like the price. But with the price, we all assume we want the smallest price, okay? But this is an assumption. But because if you have a bad agent, you sometimes will go with a higher price, but with a better agent. But with the distance, if you add in the model in the spreadsheet a smaller distance to the work, but you want a smaller distance to the grocery shop, you will have you have to put weights or something, isn't it? Just the numbers, are not enough.
Yeah, hang on, we're getting there, and that's an excellent point. In fact, people are going to think that, oh, Thom asked Lacra to set him up for this next point. And I started to work on it while Val was talking. See each of these aspects, after I put them in order, like let's say that I wrote these out and then I actually started, that they're actually names of aspects, but I then said, oh, okay, I'm going to put these in order now and pretend these are actual names and I'm not just moving around. Now I've said, okay, that one that I had listed second is actually most important. And that one I had listed first is actually second importance, etc. So you don't have to do this, but I like to put them in order of importance. And then I create a budget of 1 over here. The total weight of all these aspects can be 1, but that first most important aspect, I'm going to give it up here. I'm going to do something weird. I'm going to say at first it's a 0.7. And then this next one is a 0.4. And I go, oh, I went over 1. You know, it's okay if you go over 1. I like to force myself to stay under 1 or 100%. Why? Because you got to budget these aspects. You've got to give them weights. You've got to say, how important is this aspect relative to the others? Now, some of you that are being very astute right now might say, Thom, this sounds like linear regression. Kind of is. It kind of is. So I realized right away I'm getting in trouble. So I go back and I think, well, let me try 0.4 and 0.3. And then I realized, oh, you know what? And what we can do over here is just say 1 minus this. So I know, oh, I didn't complete that. 1 minus this. Now I know how much I have left. So this is total remaining. You know, just little tricks to help you while you're building these. And think, wow, I only have 0.3 left for these aspects. Well, let's just say we try this first. These last two are equally small, but I still want to consider. Now, we're just making these up for now. Now I know I have no budget left. And if I come up, if we're talking, excuse me, the people involved in this decision, and we realize, oh, you know what? We need to include a new aspect. That's like concept drift, right? We were missing a feature. We needed to add a feature. Now I'm going to go ahead and use machine learning talk because most of us are data specialists or data scientists, but this really is us. Well, let's give some credit where credit's due. Who was the first one to encourage us to think this way? Is this, you know, spreadsheets are relatively new, but what are we forcing ourselves to do here? Our buddy Socrates, 2,400 plus years ago, said, the unexamined life is not worth living. We're learning to examine our choices for our lives in greater detail. We're learning to examine this decision more carefully. And back to Lacra's point, she's making some great points. I just want to point out, sometimes we're in a decision where we can't get everything perfectly numerical or objective. It's kind of like we're doing categorical or ordinal. So we have to have a spirit of, we're just doing the best we can to move from too subjective to more objective. Yes, Guy?
Yes. Vivek and Amir, I think they were discussing in the chat about the values, the numbers that we have for each aspect. What these values represent exactly. This is the question that we have to be sure about it.
Okay.
So
now, what I want to ask people to do, and that's to illustrate Margaret's point, she wanted me to make sure y'all knew that these kind of clever autofills, you can do that horizontally too, of course. You can even probably get away with doing it two-dimensionally. Guys, make sure we cover those questions as we move on. We're getting to it.
Okay. I have another question, but I will keep it for later.
Okay, and we can ask it now. I can tell you if we'll come to it later.
No, I think you will cover it. That's why I don't need to ask.
Okay, so now we have these options and we have these aspects. Now we do the hard work of filling in the cells. So for option 1, aspect 1, if it's numerical, it's easy. But before we get there, what we can do is we can actually put, and I like to do this myself, and this will get to what Val and I were, by the way, Val and I are like brother and sister, so we tease each other even privately, and she watches out for me. But let's say that aspect 1 is something we could do numerical. So we might do something like put the min and the max somewhere else in the spreadsheet, so we can actually scale those between 0 and 1. In other words, if we have a grading system and we want to put everything from 0 to 100 or 0 to 10 or 0 to 1, we can do that. We take each of these numerical things and we can scale them the way we need so that we can grade it better. Well, we'll get into that. So let's say on aspect 1, option 1, we give this a grade of, and I'll go ahead and use 1 to 10 for now. We say, well, that was for option 1 and aspect 1, that probably had a high grade. And I'll just go ahead and put this, and then I think I'll I'm going to do some pre-formatting. I'm trying not to be a format Nazi, because the main thing is that we learn from this, but I'm going to do some things that I think will help us keep a better visualization here. And just a few things that won't take me long. So I got an 8 here. And then I'm just focusing on option 1 right now, okay? That's the key. I want to stay focused on that. Just, you don't have to, it's a guideline. So for aspect 2, I might say, I'm going to give that a grade, or maybe it's truly numerical and scale to this of, it scored really good there. And aspect 3, not so good for that. And aspect 4 did okay. And aspect 5 was really bad. Just making these up, and we do that for each of the options. Well, now I'm going to show you the more visual way to do this, but there's other clever ways to do it. I'm going to do just intermediate points for these. Let's see. These are just some intermediate calculation rows, okay? I'm just doing them for clarity of this, but there's other fancy ways you can do it, but I found that the fancy ways are just harder to maintain. Oh, and some of you who are hardcore like me may be thinking, Thom, couldn't you have done this in Python? Absolutely, especially with Plotly, but we're trying to just be more visual right now. And actually, I do use spreadsheets for these. Well, now, this was just, I want to move these over because they were just helper visualizations. Over here, I'd like to have a thing called total. And watch what I'm going to do. Format pane. Just save some time here. Okay, my intermediate grades are going to be this weight, and I want to absolute that partially. So I'm going to go, I don't want the column, I just want the row. So that's the way I'll absolute it. And it's times the grade. Okay? And I don't need autofill this time. The beauty of that is now I can copy that equation over. And you can see that it adjusted for column, but not for row. And I'm just multiplying by the weight each time, or by the grade each time. So the weight above. Now, what's beautiful about that, when I put the grades down here, I can just copy this and it'll work. But now I'm going to really just black out these because I'm not going to use, oh, that's so ugly. So I'm going to use, sorry, I'm being a format Nazi anyway. So now the current score for this option is that. Okay, now we're going to grade option 2. Let's say it did great here. By the way, I've witnessed people do this. They build a complete decision matrix and they don't like the way it came out, so they start adjusting things. Yeah, guys, I like Guy's reaction. Y'all, this is just a guideline. When my son-in-law did it for a job choices he had, he said, Dad, is it wrong that I pick one that had a lower grade? No, this was just to help you be very thorough in your decision. If you see how close the grades are, they could flip with just a little bit of change in weight or grade. Don't be a numerical Nazi here, okay? It's a spirit of, this was to help you think through things really carefully. If you find the grades coming out very close and you still have a preference, well, there's another thing I like to put, and I'm just going to put it, I'm going to call it red hat. Now, if you know the 6 thinking hats, you know what I'm getting at here. You know, this is just a feel. Now I'm going to go ahead and give it a weight of 0 for now. But the point being, not too loud, Luke, I'm on a call. You know, this is just a gut feel, like, what is my preference level for this? Like those things that are hard to describe. There's something about like when I was putting different things for jobs, I had a culture column. I can't put a numerical grade on that. That was totally subjective based on one visit. But because it was so subjective, I tended to weight it pretty light. I just wanted it to have an influence. And it could be little things like that that you're not thinking. So if the scores come out really close, don't stress out over that. Just be glad that you still use the decision matrix to help you think through all the aspects. Another thing that can happen is you start out with just 2 options. But when people do choose to meet with me after they built the sheet, I say, did you consider a hybrid option of 1 and 2? I had a young man ask me, who's so excited about blockchain, but he was in school studying computer science, but he just was just so excited about blockchain and cryptocurrency. And I said, Ben, what about the option of going a little slower at your growth in cryptocurrency skills and staying in school and having a plan of how to do that effectively? His reaction, well, duh, yeah, I should consider that. Exactly. And you know what came out top grade? The hybrid option. So after you write down the options, it gets you to think about other options, especially hybrid options. Ask older friends, ask people already in that field, what other options should I consider? Ask people that know you and that you trust, what aspects have I not considered? It's enlightening what others will see that you're not seeing. So that's why we do this. So I'm going to go ahead and put a grade here, even though it's not going to calculate. I'm going to say this was a really high, just gut feel good thing. And you know what's going to happen here. Excuse me. I'm going to copy this over. It's going to be a 0. And we're going to alter this equation to include H. And there we go. Okay, let's keep giving grades to option 2. And you guys can kind of see where this is going to go. So I'll do 5, 6, and this one was just an all-out great. And this one, same thing. So, oops. Okay, now here's the nice magic of spreadsheets. I'm making a, oh dang, I forgot about that. Nope. Oh man, I just really, there we go. I have to do this a different way. I'm going to just do a copy and a paste. Okay, great. And if I copy and paste this too, oh, option 2 came out higher. And that might have been something that wasn't intuitive to you. Now, let me point something out. If writing out the aspects and thinking through them and looking at the options, you might know right away, like mine and Guy's friend, oh, now that I see the aspects, it's really clear to me. Again, the unexamined life is not worth living. Examine what's important in your own mind and heart about these decisions. But it's still a good practice to go through all this and see it. It's actually kind of fun. So we will repeat this too here. Now you can see where this is going, right? This is pretty straightforward. I could go in ahead and fill this all in, but it would be redundant learning. You know, we see where this is going. Let's see. I just want to real quick, because, oh, I thought it would.
So the hot water heaters.
Yeah, I thought they're probably just forgetting how to make that stick for several formattings. So you can see where this would go long term. Now, I hope you're realizing, wow, it's not the math that's important here. It's the concept of it, right, Hugo? It's the concept of this that's important. Forcing yourself to think about the features, the aspects of this decision. What aspects are important? If to get this math to work out right, because you feel like I really need the math, just so that you can have the house prices, for example, on a scale, take max scaling, but divide by the max house price and then multiply by 10 on all of the values. Now you've got all the house prices on a scale of 0 to 10. Whatever kind of scaling you need to do to make your decision matrix work, that's the key. And Hugo pre-volunteered to help anyone with the scaling of the values in these decision matrices. I'm joking. No, but he probably would. He's a great servant of our family. Okay, let's cover some questions before we go to our...
Yes, okay. Sorry for interruption, but first, there is 2 major questions. The first one, if we name the aspects, I think it's clear right now that the aspect, it's kind of what specification for that option. If we are talking about houses or home, we can say what is the distance from job. Okay, so I think this one, it can be answered. But the other one is about the red hat. Right now, it's not considered because the weight for the red hat, it's 0. What is the red hat? It's this question from Anchor.
Yes, and I'm going to call on my son, Hugo, to answer what red hat is.
Okay, red hat basically is about your gut feeling, intuition. It's that part of the 6 thinking hats where you get to use your intuition to try to find out basically what your gut says about. Yeah, Natasha says, so it's what your gut feeling will be on the suspected option. Exactly, that's just it. Exactly. So it's just basically what your gut tells you about this decision.
Yeah, and the way I explain this when I'm teaching 6 hats is the white hat is information. The black hat is being very cautious and almost critical, judgmental, like, you know, not wanting, being very conservative, not wanting things to change. The yellow hat is, wait a minute, the sky's the limit. Let's see if we can improve this idea. Let's make it better. Here are the positive aspects of this. The green hat is creative, and it has a lot of tool sets to help you get more creative, like more ideas. The blue hat is actually supervising or thinking about the thinking process. When the person that wears the blue hat, because we all wear the same color hats, but there's one person, the facilitator, who's always wearing the blue hat. He's thinking about, or she's thinking about, hey, what are we doing? The main goal is to make sure everybody's in the same thinking mode at that point. Because people that aren't familiar with the 6 thinking hats, they might try to wear a different hat than the one we're all wearing right now, the thinking mode we're in. And you have to, the blue hat person needs to be willing to say, we're not in that thinking mode yet, hold that thought. And so that way we're all thinking in parallel to, we're not resisting each other's thinking. Well, there's certain things that we just can't verbalize. We can't state clearly, and that's the red hat. They're usually in our preferences, our value systems, but it's important, and it's good to consider it. So that's what we mean by the red hat. Just those things that are hard to define. Okay, Jonathan had a question.
Yeah. Because you mentioned about having people to help fill this in, and can you, and you said there when people fill it in, they say, they tweak it a bit so they still get one of their better options come out on your final score. But how can you take the personal bias out of filling this in?
Oh, actually, now that's a great question, because I would say, hey, this is all about your personal bias. It's saying, now if it's in a group, Jonathan, excellent point. And so one way to deal with the weighting of the aspects when you're in a group process is take the average of what each person would say is the weight of that aspect. Now, if the group says, hey, these weights need to add up to 1, don't need to add up to 1, we're just going to take the average of each one, and that's going to be the weight, that's fine. But Jonathan, what do you do when the group thinks, no, we should make sure, we should force ourselves to Pareto these. We should force ourselves to come up with weights that add up to 1. Then how do you solve it? You result to fighting. No, I just was so waiting to say that.
I think here the option itself, it will be the let's say we will focus on the option itself. Since we are in the group, we'll find which option is having, let's say, it's chosen most, and then the group will choose the same. Not about the weight. I have a question here, Thom, because I understand the red hat, and maybe for me, for example, the red hat is the most important. Okay, if I'm going for decision metrics, I will make it just for one reason, to know how much difficulties I will face, and then I will go with the red hat. Okay, but there is one thing. If we have an aspect, how to implement this one aspect? It's Boolean. That means it's 0 or 1. It might If it's 0, then this option, I cannot get it, whatever was the other aspects. But if it's 1, then I can consider the other aspect. How to represent this factor? And it's not red hat. That means it's not feeling. It's a real aspect that we have to manage it, to measure it somehow. This is my question. And also there is a question, I want to read it immediately from the chat. It is from Valerie. Perhaps consider adding column unknown. A friend gave me advice that has served me well. If you do all of your research and collect your data and go through that process, if you still cannot make a decision that you are comfortable with, ask yourself, if you have to make the decision today. If you have time to wait, then wait. Sometimes with time, more information will be shown that you were not able to consider and can help you to make better decision. I like that.
Yes.
Okay, I have one friend who told me always delay the decision to the next day. Okay, but this is better, Valerie. I accept that.
So
okay.
Valerie, I too agree with Guy. I was so glad. In fact, guys, if you haven't read it, read Valerie's advice in the chat. It's super important and powerful. So I want to cover some things in order. Guy, thank you for all of that. So first, yes, what Valerie said in her chat, sleep on it. You don't have to make the decision today, don't. Do you want to know the quickest way to drive a car salesman, new or used, crazy? You go in, you look at the car, you look at the numbers they're throwing out, and you say, we won't be getting it today. We're going to go sleep on it. That will drive them nuts. Now, when I was in grad school, and I was still older than most of the people in my grad school office, one of my friends, we're still friends, we still stay in touch. He said, Thom, and by the way, I was there, I'd already worked in industry for a while. There was a former Navy SEAL in our office, and Michael, this just a little bit younger than us, comes over and says, Thom, we were at a car dealer and we were looking at this Dodge Neon, and before he could finish saying, Michael, you do not buy that car until 2 weeks from now. I didn't even finish listening to him. And Scott walked over, the Navy SEAL, and he started like doing this. And he said, Thom, he said this later, I did not want to hear you say that, but I decided to take your advice. And I said, Michael, you keep showing interest, but you do not buy that car until at least 2 weeks from now. I said, Thom, it became laughable to my wife and I. Every day they called with a new, better option, a new, better deal, every day. And he said, every day I felt better about taking your advice. But Sue and I always told anyone that was selling us something, we're going to sleep on it. And then Sue loves doing these decision matrices now. We almost had marital problems the first time we built a decision matrix. Like, Sue, you are not tracking with me here. Let's focus on the aspects of the decision. But now she loves it because she realizes, oh, it's taking this very subjective thing and making it more objective. Now, back to that other point. Look at the screen here. We've got these values. Let's say they didn't add up to 1. We can max scale them so they do. We just max scale them. It's no big deal, okay? So what if they're all the same value? That's okay too. Now we're just summing up the grades, basically. It's all okay. You notice I changed the grade just so these would be different. When I actually put the red hat into the equation, they were both 7.2. And again, the red hat is kind of like what Val's saying. It's just things you can't define, but you have a gut feel about. All right.
Okay. Thom, also before going on, please, sorry for that.
Real quick too, Guy. I realized, I think I forgot your question. Can you restate it? Because I don't think I covered your question.
I will restate it, but also I think because Amir is asking a question I think it's related to my question. If it's about the bias in your weight assigning. Now, according to my understanding, you are trying to find the best option for your biased decision. It's yourself. So it's acceptable, totally acceptable to be biased toward that. It's your weights. This is the importance for yourself.
That's it exactly, Guy. You've got it. These are your biases. Now, if you're in a group, you've got to find a way to get consensus, right? So people have to respect your grades. I got to tell you though, when I've done something similar to this, when I gathered experts to make a decision, we had to average the weights. Once we came up with the score, there was no argument because they realized they could see what we had done and how fair it was. Everyone had their voice, but it was weighted accordingly. So, but when it's just you want your biases completely in control of this. It is about each aspect and how important, the importance of those aspects. The level of importance of those aspects is according to you. It must be, this is your life decision. But hopefully it makes you even more careful to examine, you know what, on that aspect, I have this preference, but why? Am I being very mature about that aspect being more important? I mean, is that really better for my family, for my long-term career, for my growth? Maybe I'm being immature here. Maybe you get to examine that yourself, Amir, and everyone else. You get to challenge yourself with, well, yeah. So that's why Valerie's advice in the chat is so important. Look at probably the most important things are your grades and your aspect weights, but also it's very important to consider additional options too. So, yeah. Okay.
Okay. My question, it was like the following. If we consider one of these aspects, it's preventive aspect. That means if it's not there, I cannot go with that option. Okay. But if it's there for me, it's okay. That means it's there. Okay. Now I will decide about other aspects to make my decision about it. But if that aspect it's not met, that means it's Boolean value for me, 0 or 1. How to represent this? I cannot get it.
No, I think it depends on how many aspects you have, because 0 and 1 could really flip things, right?
Yep.
So let's think classification math for a minute.
Okay.
Maybe to be more fair to that aspect, you say, well, 0 to 1's too harsh, or 0 to 10. It's on or off, in other words. Maybe I want to lighten the effects of that aspect. So I do 0.4 for no, 0.6 for yes. I have never thought of this before, Guy. I've never had a binary. But
okay,
you're right.
This has encouraged me to do the following. Just go to the genetic algorithm. We have the fitness function, and then we have the evaluation function, and then we have the fitness function. Okay, yeah. We can evaluate the option and then run it for that aspect.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay. Find the best option and see if it's meet the aspect or not.
Yeah. All of these things are fair. If you're doing it for yourself, adjust the math to where you think you're being honest with yourself. If you're doing it in the group, adjust the math in a way that the group is okay with. That's what we do. All right. Any other questions before we move on to phase 2?
I have a quick question for guys. Right, what you're talking about here? Isn't it some sort of make or break deal? So if aspect X is present, then you consider it, and if not present, then you don't consider that option. Is that what you're trying to determine here?
Exactly. This is the question. It's how to. It's, for example, we have one or more aspects that it has to be presented. You cannot ignore them. Okay.
Yeah.
Then, if they are presented, then you can go and evaluate the other aspects, or vice versa. You can evaluate all the aspects and then run the best option.
Yeah.
For that. Yes, but this is the question. Correct. You are correct.
Yes. So it sounds like it's a more of a constraint problem, right? So a constraint problem, you would put the minimum requirements. So no minimum requirement would be aspect 1, 2, 3, and then you can have any other added aspects. So if you don't meet that minimum requirement, then that option is not considered. So it's a prime constraint problem where you're optimizing the total aspects from 1 to Z, for example, with the minimum aspect 1, 2, 3 needs to be present there as a constraint in your optimization problem. Sounds like it's a good.
Yes, this is another way. Yes, that's perfect. Yes, another approach for that. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I have a fun illustration, Brother Greg. Let's say we were back in the previous world, and well, and in some jobs this is still true. You have to drive to your workplace, and you're on a budget, and you realize, no, I want a company that has a workout facility. It either has it or it doesn't. You know, for example, you might be grading. This is another version of what Geith is saying. Oh, I went to company A and they had a state-of-the-art workout place. I'm giving it a 1 out of 10. It's a 10. The next place, oh, it was old and some of the equipment was smelly and didn't work great. I'm going to give it a 5. The other place didn't even have a workout place. I'm giving it a 0. Guy's talking about those cases where it either has it or it doesn't. It's a 0 or a 1. And depending on how many aspects you have, I say just leave it 0, 10. But you might want to soften it because you realize, oh, they didn't have a gym, but they had a really nice outdoor exercise circuit. That means, okay, for 9 months of the year, I can use it. So I'm going to give it a 0.75, you know, but it wasn't the gym that I wanted. So maybe I make it even lower. It's a 0.6. And I don't know, just throwing things out. And then
there is another question, Thom, I think. Sorry, Greg. Sorry, can go.
No. I was agreeing with Thom on understanding your point and understanding Thom's point. So no, go ahead.
Excellent.
Okay. The question is about the negative weight. Is it possible to have negative weight, and how?
Yeah, I would say, of course you can, but then you almost need to put, you may need to put all the other ones from, you know, let's say we switched from 0 to 10 to -5 to +5. You could do that on all of these grades, actually. 0 could be like, yeah, it's average, or it's okay, but it could be that you do that with the manager you'll work for. You know, yeah, they're like anyone else. Oh man, I'd die to work for this person. Oh no, this person would make this job really difficult. In other words, all the other factors would have to be, all the other aspects would have to be graded really high for me to be willing to work for this guy or gal, something like that. Just thinking out loud there. But sure, you can do, it's basically, you have to adjust the math in these decision matrices to deal with the way you want to do things. I personally like to go on ahead and just make everything 0 to 100 for the weights, for the grades, everything. And then I just scale things at the end. But frankly, the math's easier if you go 0 to 1 and just deal with the decimals. But just that when I'm doing this with others that don't think decimals all the time, it might be easier to do it with just whole numbers like that. But then you have to scale your equations. Well, you don't have to, but I like to have the I like to have the answers on a scale of 0 to 10 or 0 to 100 too. So I tend to use the decimals. But again, anything is valid as long as you're being objective with yourself.
I think we can go to the next step, the next stage, because there is no pending question according to my.
Excellent. Now I'm gonna take a risk here. I can be the driver, or someone else could share their screen, and they can build their own while we help them. But I'm happy to. We can just go to a new sheet here, and in fact, I'll just copy this one so it's there when we need to share it. And we'll create a new sheet, and we can fill in an exact one that someone wants to do, or we can do one that we just want to make up together. So you guys help me decide. And I'll play the Jeopardy theme music in my mind while I wait to hear from y'all. Do, 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 do. I can do this all day, by the way, so someone's got to say something. Do, 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 do. Oh, I love it, Margaret. Yes, that's a great one for this group. Okay. Now, Margaret, come off mute. You and I are going to co-host together now. And Greg and Ike and Greg are going to ask us questions. They're going to moderate the two of us. Okay, here we go. So what's our first option, Margaret?
JavaScript.
Ooh. And by the way, just in case no one knew and wanted to know, I love JavaScript. And I sometimes wondered why it didn't become the next Python. But they are very similar. They're not exactly similar, but they're very similar. Okay, what's the next one, Margaret?
Sort of advanced Python.
Okay, let's see. How would we put that? Do you mean in the sense of writing new modules for Python, like based in C that are really fast, or just creating a new Python module for the public? What are you thinking?
New Python module.
Okay. Python module. Now, something that be thinking, what questions should Margaret and I ask ourselves before that? Well, what languages do we already know? What are our career goals? Okay. Those could be things that will influence our aspects, right? Okay. Is there another option in your mind?
Elasticsearch, which is a open database management software.
I'm familiar, but not skilled at it.
And then Docker, which is.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Now, this is part of Margaret's personalized learning plan, and she's trying to triage, okay, what's most important for me to learn next? And I'm going to go ahead and clean up a little here. There we go.
And then I guess aspects that I was kind of already thinking of is time commitment.
Okay, so the time it would take to learn, which is directly related to
which you already know.
Yeah, there's something collinear to difficulty or time to learn. Oh gosh, I just gave it away. Difficulty. Yeah. Okay, should we put difficulty or time to learn? It's fine either way.
I like difficulty because the time to learn can be subjective a little bit more than difficulty.
Agreed. Now, part of the difficulty maybe this is collinear too. People will ask me, should I learn Python or R? And I said, well, this is one I'm willing to discuss, but I think R is great. I have friends that I'm very close to in the data science world that are R people, and they know I'm a Python person. But I just go ahead and point out, well, the reason I like Python better is because I can do more things with it. Ours kind of restricted to, you know, the mathematical realms, whereas if I want to extend to web stuff and all that, however, sorry, I diverged. The other big aspect, I said, when they ask me one thing versus another, I say, oh, they said, well, you know, I do a lot of data at scale, so I'm thinking I should use this module that's like pandas, but it's not pandas. I'm like, you know what? I think you still want to learn pandas first. Here's why. You're going to find 100 times more help for pandas than that other module. And then once you understand how to think in pandas, you're probably going to understand how to pretty much think in this data at scale module. So all I mean by this aspect too is, and help me word it, guys, amount of help or community strength. Basically, how easy is it to get help when I run into a learning hurdle or a learning wall?
Available resources?
Yeah, let's just call it resources. That's great.
I had a similar one there, Tom, when I was on about S-frames and pandas.
Exactly. That, in fact, Jonathan, that was the case I was thinking. I just forgot it that it was you. Okay. Teach me. Oh, yeah. Okay. What's an aspect? So I think this is resources a good term for it, you think?
Ease of help maybe would be another better term.
Yeah, I'd say, what do we call it?
Support.
What?
Support.
Yes, yeah. That's probably best. Okay, good. Thanks, Yogita. Okay, what do you think?
Community. I was gonna say community.
Yes, in fact, yeah, I think support, community, they'd all be good terms. In fact,
support and community could be different, right? Support, the way I see support is kind of like the tool itself has some sort of resources like that explain, you know, how the modules work, how the functions work. Community is kind of like how many people are actually discussing, helping each other, active communications between them and things like that.
Yeah. When you said that, I was thinking about the age of the language. Is it new or is it old? That could fall into it as well.
Maybe if we could find it, adoption, effectively, how many people are already using it?
Yeah, job demand, job specialization.
Vivek, I hope you feel better. I see what you're saying in there. I was just trying to type the same. That's what was said. Okay. So re-say those things y'all just said while I was typing to Vivek. Sorry, community.
I think the things that were mentioned were kind of adoption / age, kind of how many people are already using it. And then the other one was kind of how, like, job prospects.
How's this? Popularity, marketability, meaning if I have this, right? Is that what we mean? Our personal marketability. Oh, now in this realm, Red Hat has a new meaning. Can I use it in Red Hat OS? No, we don't want that one though. Is there something else we want?
I mean, if we're going for the more subjective, I almost would go with like people I already know, that personal support, maybe people that I already know that could help me.
My network, basically. Okay, good.
A quick question I have.
By the way, this didn't have to be subjective, and I want to point out we can keep adding things here. It's not necessary. Go ahead, Greg. Sorry.
No, and between popularity and marketability, which one explains in the professional world how many companies already adopted any of these tools or using them in real business use cases? I think we need something like that, because it depends on what you want to do, what industry you want to evolve in. If that industry has widely adopted Python, maybe that's what you want to deep dive on.
So maybe my industry or desired industry is kind of a...
Is that a new column or changing one of these existing ones?
Yeah, I just wanted to understand whether popularity captures that or marketability, or does it need to be a new column? Because I think you need to consider that too.
I think the marketability it's covering that, Greg, from
You
my
think so?
point of view.
Okay.
Yes,
Everyone's decision
yes,
tree would be different too.
But yes,
Yeah.
there is something else. Maybe I can think about it. It's about that. Okay, what kind of? I don't know how to say that in English, but it's something that there is some tools or languages. It's maybe you are not using it on the market itself, but yes, it's give you a nice view that okay, this person is knowing that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's just like I don't know how to say it in English, but
I
yes.
was going to say industry
For example,
adoption.
why I mentioned Julia as an option? Okay, it's not because Julia it's very supported, but the community for it's not that much huge. The marketability it's also not that much huge, but it's really very fancy language. That means everybody who's working on Julia, that he will get good feedback from his friends. That okay, you deep dive on that. That's good, and this might open some opportunities for him.
Reputation?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was going to say, what do you guys think about industry adoption? Right? Has the industry adopted that language?
Mm-hmm.
You could even, like more specifically, Greg, to your point, which of the companies Margaret's most interested in working at, how popular are those languages there?
Yeah, that's what I mean by that. And I think
what I
guys
thought,
spoke to that, right? That marketability may have captured that. So that's what I wanted to say.
Now I want to point out what you are all doing, other than Margaret, is helping Margaret think through this, because this is for Margaret. That's what we'll remember. If we were doing this as a group, we'd all throw out our own aspects, and then we could vote on the aspects. Then we would throw out our own weights for each aspect and average the aspect weights. And if we wanted them from 0 to something, we could scale them accordingly to all fit and sum up to that, like a cumulative distribution function. But Margaret, the question is, well, first, thank all your friends for helping you make your decision matrix. And then say to yourself, do I like this or do I want to refine something? Because this, I'm helping you more directly, but this is for you. I'm just I'm your scribe. I'm your spreadsheet scribe. By the way, I could even give you control, I think. If you want, let me know.
I'm typing it up in the background.
That's fine.
I think that we'll add company interest, and I think that would be as kind of the last.
Yes. Okay, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Company interest, meaning how interested would the companies that you're interested in
be in that knowledge,
in you knowing that? Okay, yeah. So I'm going to just call it, for ease of use, co-interest. Is that okay?
Perfect.
Excellent. Okay, I'm going to leave the calculations we had so far, but eliminate the grades, and then you start thinking of what you want to do next, and I'm just getting ready for some other things, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to you've got your options, that's great. And then you need to be thinking about how you want to weight these aspects. And we can reorder them too if you want.
That's fair. Okay, let's see.
And the way I understand it too, Thom, is the weight is the subjective part, right? And then the score you give should be as objective as possible. Is that correct? Because the weight is kind of like, okay, why do I give more importance to?
So this is what Amir was concerned about. how do you eliminate bias on these weights? You don't. It's
well, you
your
don't.
bias.
It needs, it needs to be biased, right? It's based on what's most important to you. But
exactly.
the numbers you put in there, like the scores, is kind of like objective, meaning show me the facts, right? If you're 2 miles away from the school that is very important to me, then I'm gonna score it high because and then the weight is going to amplify that because
yes.
So
exactly, Greg. So remember, use the numerical trickery you have to use. If you're looking for proximity numbers, what do you have to do? Oh, you have to say maybe the max distance minus is subtracted from everything. That way the max distance gets a 0 score.
Yeah.
And the minimum distance gets the highest score. And then you could even scale that on the max or some other number to get it all to the scale you want. But yeah, you can, and in fact, what Greg's saying, guys, is what I was trying to emphasize at the beginning. Every chance you have to convert an objective grade to a numerical grade is a win. Right, Greg? It's like, why use a subjective grade when you can use a numerical number? Now, unfortunately, probably all of these are going to be what, guys?
Subjective.
Now, with popularity, though, you can look up studies. In fact, there's a fun graphic that was created that shows over the last 20 years how, Python went from it was popular. It was in the top 20, but over time it slowly rose to even be above JavaScript. But JavaScript and Python, they're both right up there today. So that popularity, that could be by go to at least 3 different websites and take the popularity scores, and now you can average those popularity scores from those 3 sites. They're probably drawing from different data sources. And now we can turn that popularity number into something more objective or subjective. No, objective. No, duh. Okay. But while we're at it, Margaret, how do you want to reorder these? First of all, we could do that. Could put these, I'll pull them down here, and you can tell me which one to put in the first spot.
Difficulty.
Okay,
Still.
Difficulty still number 1. Okay.
Marketability.
Excellent. I kind of agree with you there, but it doesn't matter whether I do or not.
My network actually would be next.
Cool.
I kind of see support and community as kind of equally valuable in this case. So kind of either of them.
Okay. Just put them
down. Company interest next. And then popularity. And at least for popularity, my thought is like looking at languages, it's like, what is the most popular language just change over time? And so kind of building my skills out to be functional over flashy is potentially more useful for me.
Okay, good. I just got disappointed. I thought I could do that multi-cursor approach to this, and I still had to do this separately. Okay, how about
you have to have at least 2 to draw.
Oh no, I did. I was doing it this way, but they weren't right next to each other, and it got confused when I tried to drag it that way. That's all.
That's fair.
Okay, so now
Margaret, sorry about that, Thom. If you wanted to be eco-friendly, I did a post a couple months ago about some students from a university in Portugal who calculated the energy usage of leveraging some of these tools. I think they included Julia in there, but C++, Python, et cetera, that were showing how efficient they were in consumption and in contributing to, energy output in terms of gas emission and things like that. So that would be quite a fun paper for you to read. It was
Do you have the link to that?
I will find it because I did put a post on there, and I also pasted the link to the study by these researchers. So it was quite interesting.
Now I want to point out, I threw some politely disparaging remarks at that study because I felt like there were significant features missing, but it was still fun to
Yes, correct.
It was still fun to read, wasn't it, Greg?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they were just focusing on one aspect, which is the whole energy consumption piece of it. And I think what you're adding, from what I remember, it was you were talking about ease of use, which is something that we captured here by naming it difficulty.
Yeah, if you look at all the resources involved, well, I know from experience, even when I was really good at C, it still takes me a lot less time to get something working in Python.
Mm-hmm.
So while it might use more energy, in the end, I probably used less energy and less company resources, me, coding in Python than in C. So.
Yeah, the post created quite a few great discussions. So I'd be glad to send it to you guys or paste it here while you talk. I'll search for it.
That would be great, Greg. Okay.
Yep.
Now, and yes, everyone keep chiming in. Thanks for adding that, Greg. What do we want to say, Margaret, for your aspect weights? Are you working on those, or?
I am working on those.
I thought you were. It looked like you were. You want to, whenever you're ready to share them with us.
Let's see if that works better. Yeah.
Now, by the way, this is a great example because it won't severely hurt Margaret one way or the other if she chooses one of these over the other, and maybe it would have been better had she learned Docker over JavaScript for where life took her. But who you marry?
Yes.
Well, what school you attend, whether you're going to go to grad school or not, and all these kinds of things. Those are the scary questions I get. And that's when I want to see people especially build these. But if Margaret just said, I don't want to build a decision matrix, I really want to learn JavaScript. Awesome, go learn it. So but this is a great example for a specific example. It's low risk. Okay, what do you have here? We'll fill them in for you.
Point. I put it in the Zoom chat because I put some weird weights. So I figured rather than.
Yeah. Oh no, I'll do those. That's great. 0.2. Thank you for doing that. That actually works. And I do weird weights too, so I'm glad to see I'm not the only weird waiter. And okay, great. Yeah, we're done.
So JavaScript, since it's the one I actually can put the values in right now based on what I know, for a lot of them, for me, at least, the difficulty is higher because I haven't learned a language like JavaScript before.
Okay.
So I would put it up at like an 8.5.
Now let's think about this. Do you want to put 8.5 or 1.5?
Ooh.
You see my point?
Yeah.
In other words, let's flip this. You want to, you're grading it on ease. So let's flip this to ease. Ease of learn. Is that fair?
Yes. No, that is.
Because that would have messed up our grade if we want to, if we wanted the highest.
It's effectively what is high and what is low is also an interesting question for a decision tree.
I'll call it 1.5. There you go.
Another way to look at this is to define your objective function. So if your objective function is to maximize your total points, then you will number these differently. If your objective function is to minimize, then you'll number a different way.
Marketability, from kind of what I've been looking at, seems to be like a 7. If we're going on a 10 scale. My network is actually a 10.
Nice.
My husband is a JavaScript developer.
Yeah, that's pretty strong.
Support is 7 or 8. So
Now,
we'll go
what
with,
about your husband won't give you good support?
I'm looking
Oh,
at
you mean
support,
community support.
community support, of kind of what exists out there for people to learn already.
So what'd you call it? 7 or 8?
7 or 8, so 7.5.
That's what I'm doing. Okay, cool.
Community 7. Company interest is about a 5. Because I'm looking at a lot of data science jobs. So
Excellent.
and then popularity, I actually just had that up for reals. Is a 9. We'll go with 9.
Okay, and that's good. You see what she did? She looked at a study, but rather than just entering all the detailed numerics, she just thumbnailed it, and that's absolutely fine in my opinion. Yeah, again, it's up to you how numerically Nazi you want to be. And forgive me if that sounds offensive. It's just a very American term from Seinfeld, soup Nazi, stats Nazi, numerical Nazi, data science Nazi.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we have a first score here, and that's great. Now you notice the ease of learning got like hammered here. I might not have known what to put here when I learned JavaScript, but it also kind of depends on the quality of learning materials you can find.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you right now, there's a Portuguese young man, I forget his name, but I'll find him for you, Margaret, but I absolutely love learning JavaScript from him. He's on Udemy. And
I currently have Udemy Business access.
Awesome, awesome. I've got a funny story for y'all. I kept thinking maybe I should learn JavaScript, maybe because I'd see it so often. Don't laugh too hard. I do not like Java. And I thought it was associated somehow with Java. And it makes me mad that it was named JavaScript. I don't know who came first, Java or JavaScript, but it used to be called something else, JavaScript did. And I avoided learning JavaScript because I thought it was associated with Java. And oh, that was a big mistake. So it was, okay, I'm not getting the laughter on that I thought it would, but that's okay.
I don't think that everyone has the like things that they think that may or may not be influenced by things that are true, and those, it's not worth laughing at. You learned.
Well, I wished I had learned sooner because JavaScript's awesome. Okay.
Anything
Python
starting with Java is serious. You can't laugh at that.
Thank you. All right, Python module. What do you think? Margaret, do you already know Python?
I do.
Okay. So what do you think? There are some peculiar things about like getting on PyPy and making sure it can pip install and all of that. So even if you know Python pretty well, this is no cakewalk. I want everyone to know.
I would probably put it at we'll go with a 5.5.
Now that's ease of learning.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Marketability for that is actually high for a lot of things that I'm looking at. So we'll go with it 8.5. My network for this one's very low, so we'll go with a 3.
Now, one thing, each of these grades could be dynamic. As let's say she gets into doing the Python module someday. Well, that network can grow as you make friends doing the same thing. Right? Okay, go ahead.
Now, at least usually for everything Python, there's lots of documentation and people who've done it and all that. So we're gonna go with a 8.5. Also great community, so also 8.5. Company interest, was a little lower comparatively to what I'm looking at. So we're gonna go with 7. And I don't know much about the popularity of building Python modules themselves. So that would be a question to find out.
So we can kind of give it a vanilla score of 5. Is that
Mhm.
acceptable?
Yeah.
By the way, even before we got here, it was winning.
Mhm.
And I think that this high weight and this low grade are affecting the decision right now. So
By
what
the
do
way,
you
Margaret,
do? You go change things until it comes out the way you want. If you're doing that, you didn't need the decision matrix, right? Go ahead, Greg. Sorry.
I was just saying that I found the post, and I put it on the side for you, Margaret, if you wanna take a look at it about computational complexity, and then you can read the discussion in what Thom was saying. He put some great inputs in there, as well as other people. So it was quite an interesting discussion.
I just realized I know who you are and follow you on LinkedIn.
Yes, we met at Scale AI. So
yes.
yeah, the Scale Transform event, and that's how we started following each other.
You may know him better as Gary Gregoire Cucuyo. No, I always mess with him that way.
You post the coolest things and are like one of the things that I look at every day.
Well, thank you very much. I'm honored.
So Margaret, I used to tease Greg. Well, it wasn't a tease, it was actually a compliment, but kind of joking too. You know how news channels like to advertise themselves?
Mhm.
I was Greg's main advertisers. DS News Channel at 5, Greg Cucuyo. Boom. And it's like you can set your watch by the time he posts too.
Mhm.
He's the most consistent of all of us.
Appreciate it.
You are his herald.
We are brothers. Okay, this is good. I think if we go on, it's just like minutia, but
Yep.
not for you, of course.
No,
Now
I'll finish the rest of this on my
Yeah,
own.
excellent, excellent. Okay, guys, I hope this was super valuable. We did the philosophical, theoretical discussion and build, and then we did the practical. And really, again, most of the time, it's just, I think, now Margaret, tell me, I know there was value in building the matrix, there always is. But frankly, if you had just carefully thought through, oh, what are my aspects here? You probably could have pulled it. You probably could have pulled it out of your pocket, let me say it that way, and just said, thinking through these aspects, I just have a gut feel I'm going to go with Python modules first.
Oh, it gets even more interesting when you realize that to do Elasticsearch, I need Docker.
There you go. So you'd have to learn Docker first, but building this might have helped reveal that or other things. And really, why would you want to do this? Well, let's say you start reading. Have you ever felt lost when you're just researching a question? But if you can put it in some kind of framework, as you're studying, open a spreadsheet and start figuring out aspects to this thing you're researching. Huge help. What are the aspects of this research question I have? And then it helps you organize your thoughts as you go. Just like good old, what did you do in the original research paper days? We'd get those, I might be dating myself here. You'd buy a plastic box. Yes, we had plastic back when I was young. But people would still carry metal or wood boxes too. And you'd buy those index cards and you'd write your notes. Oh, here's a significant point. You'd write it out and you'd collect hundreds of those, and later you'd go back and organize them. So as you collect key points when you're researching a question, you can put those in long fields on a spreadsheet. So I'll just do a new one here. And now I teach my kids to do this too. A spreadsheet is my box of index cards now. But now that I have it that way, I can go back to each of those and say, oh, I would have categorized this note this way and this one this way. What are you doing? You're doing the aspects of your research. And now if it results in a decision to be made, you've got the aspects, you can weight them based on even the number of comments or more subjectively, like what I learned from each of those areas. Sorry, I opened this blank sheet.
Yes, Lakra, I think Lakra, she has a question.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's quite a question. You said before, Thom, we shouldn't change or update the weights after we start building. But from what I understand right now, from what you're saying right now, maybe it's good from time to time after we, let's say we start learning JavaScript, and few weeks ago we discovered not only new aspects, but maybe new thing about the weights we put there. Maybe we discover the community or the company that are using the software is not quite such importance. It doesn't have importance for us than something else. So maybe from time to time we maybe go back.
So our point is,
I'm not talking about buying a house. You can't do that. But when you're talking about a career,
you're bringing up a great point, and it's this difference, Lachlan. Some people change the weights because they're confused by the outcome. You're talking about something completely different.
Okay, I got it.
You're talking about, oh, I've learned more about this aspect, and now I think it's more important than I originally thought.
Yeah.
But you're not changing it to change the outcome. You're changing it because you've been more informed about how important that aspect is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
One's dishonest, and one's and you would ask the person, why did you even do a decision matrix if you know what you want the outcome to be? You didn't need the decision matrix because
somebody at some one of the jobs said, tell me what you want to be the results and I will make the number to give you that result.
Exactly. There's so many funny sayings that way, but a lot. I remember when I had this very great friend at a company I worked at. I miss him dearly a lot. When I first taught our team the 6 thinking hats, he said, "This is great. We need to start using this for everything." And I said, Du, his name was Du, a Chinese name, just Du. Said, I'm glad you're excited about it, but frankly, if we used it for everything, it would be debilitating. It's really more for hard to make decisions where we need creative problem solving or, creative solution to something, and we need to do it as a group. That's when we really want to use it. But you can use it individually, but you don't need to use it all the time. Same thing here. If Margaret had just said, "Oh, I still just want to learn Docker first," even though it came out the bottom, that's fine. You've been informed about these other things, and that might, I'm just saying, you don't have to use this for every decision, of course. This is for tough decisions where you're not really sure and you need to do, this is a way to create a framework for what you're learning, what you're finding out. Makes sense? Okay, good. All right, I think we beat it to death, but I'm happy to stay on and answer more questions and let everyone else help me answer questions. So, and Lacra, thank you for your good questions. Those were really helpful. What other questions do we have out there? I know some people are burning to ask, why didn't you include Julia? And Margaret would rightly say, because I didn't want to.
Yes, I have one thing to add. It's not okay, it's just suggestion. When we are talking about the decision metrics, because there is something not clear for us and we are trying to clarify it. Now, it's maybe good to have this habit. It's something I learned it from project management. Once you start your project, you have to complete it before go to another project. So for example, if we are talking about this example we have, and if we choose the Docker, okay, once we start this, I think it's better to complete it. There is nothing bad about learning this tool. Otherwise, we will move from one option to another without finalizing any one of these. Now, this is also another way. Okay, decision metrics help us to make the suitable decision according to our aspects. And we start, it's better to decide where we have to stop and follow that decision. Don't cut the road, don't stop without reaching your target. Because this is, we will drop ourselves in a circle of changing options without mastering any option. This is one suggestion. It's, as I told you, it's for personal life, this is not the case, but I learned it from the project management process. When you have a project, you have to complete it at the end. I don't know if it's suitable or not, but this is what I feel.
I agree with the project, but I have my doubts about the life for the programming language, because you can discover at some point you really don't want to do that, and that language maybe you ended up with
okay, now this is good.
Other reasons.
Okay, now this is good.
I had a life problem with my daughter. She's 23 right now, choosing her way in life, and we used that kind of matrix, and we ended up with an option which was not good for her, but we discovered this half a year later, and I wouldn't advise to go with.
Okay, like what I'm feeling here we're back to the, let's say, that aspect, that destroying aspect, which is you can stop everything if it's not presented. This is the case that you're describing right now. But when we are talking about that, for example, JavaScript, are we going to master and still continue for 2-3 years learning JavaScript beside our personal life, beside our duties in the business, in the work? I think we have to make a target. This target will be not final, but it's final for this step. And run the sprint. Yes, exactly.
Milestone.
And run the sprint, finish it before going to another step. Yes.
Splitting in sprints.
Yes. This is the first one. The second one, if we are talking about not the tools, if we are talking about decision metrics, again, we have to remind ourselves that it's used when there is something not clear, when the best decision is not clear for us. So this will help us just to find a way to evaluate our options. But again, always the personal PS is playing main role. Any question from anyone? I'm not going to answer. I'm going to ask the same question to other people. So that's all. Margaret, so we need to create smart goal around the JavaScript in this situation. Somehow, yes. It's always okay. How to say that? I think the learning process in general, if we are talking about learning, it's always we have to stop at one point and decide to move to the, let's say, to the practical life, not stop at learning. So if JavaScript, we reach a point that it's help us to go to the practical life in that field, then we will stop here. The practical life, it will give us the experience that we need, and we will enlarge our learning according to that. The same for the others, not only for the JavaScript.
And maybe we can find some metrics for that smart goal. We can't do this always, but some metrics for that goal. It was a, I don't know, very good project or a good enough project, or I don't know, you can imagine.
By the way, this is nice. Yes, I agree with that. I like the idea.
Well, I am very happy that we finally got to this. because now I can refer people to the video for this session. And Guy, I'm thinking, and Greg, I want your opinion on this too. Greg and I have only been working on the blog post for this thing for, well, it's maybe better to say how long we have not been working on the blog post for Decision Matrices. We started it and we never finished it because we got busy doing other things, but maybe I should make a super concise video on the same. We can just add that to our integrated mentoring channel. Because our sessions, they go almost 2 hours typically. And this has been valuable, but to just get started, well, I guess people could just watch they could forward ahead. We might even put a little note in this session guide to tell people, yeah, you probably can do fine just going to look at the theoretical section, because we open with a lot of chit chat because we're a family. But I guess we could use it that way too, and people can watch it at 2x speed. But let me know if y'all think it'd be valuable for me to create a very concise video on just the creation. We could do that too.
I think that'd be great.
Okay,
very
good.
Concise, no more than 20-30 minutes.
I think I could even do it in 10, just at the highest levels.
10 would be great. Yeah,
I might do that, and I might even be able to edit the one we did, but I guess that'd be probably easier just to do it from scratch. Okay, good. Yeah, thanks, Greg. That's kind of what I was looking for. If any one of you thought it'd be good to do it that way. Let me stop sharing for the rest of our time. Okay. By the way, when I step away, just so y'all know, I have a funny term for it. It's OMB squared, old man bladder break. That's what's happening. Okay, any final questions? Natasha, glad to see you here. Did y'all notice who didn't show up? I want everyone to give her crap for it. It's Ngozi. We knew Kim and Maggie were out, but we didn't have Ngozi Corner. And of course, we didn't need to do a pre-soup time because when Dennis isn't here, I do the pre-soup time, but we were doing the pre-soup time the whole time, so we were fine. I want to highlight something cool coming up. Well, let me let Greg do it because Greg's going to moderate that. Greg, will you tell him about next week? Because it's super cool. I think we ought to advertise it too. Oh, Greg might have stepped. Oh, good. Go ahead, Greg.
So about next week?
Yes.
I don't remember. Would you want to cover that for me, Thom? Sorry.
Oh, you know what? I'm messed up. It's September 4th, not next week.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
That's what it was.
Yeah, that was my bad. Let me figure out real quick. I can look it up. Next week, what are we doing? I'm going to look it up. Y'all make sure you thank Magdi a lot for.
I think next week is Ravit.
Oh my, yes, and it's my daughter and I doing that one. Okay, so I'm gonna actually delete these. Yeah, we have Robert. Oh my. So now what are we gonna talk about? Is it just gonna be father, daughter, son talking, or is it going to be something useful? It's going to be very useful. Community building, networking, personal branding. I don't think anyone would argue that Robert's a genius at that stuff. So you want to show up. And by the way, Manpreet's not half bad at it either. She's a young woman and she's doing quite well in that area. So excellent. If any of you here today are in the UK, I don't know, Guy, is it okay to talk about my daughter's quest? openly like this?
I think it's better to wait a little bit
I'll
until
ask
it's
her,
final
yeah.
100%. Yes.
My understanding is it's pretty darn near final, but she needs to have
But
a way to live.
yes, still she has the last step to be confirmed.
So what we're saying is we're not going to talk about it any more than what we were hinting at, because we can't. Sorry.
But we wish her luck.
We will. Thank you. And she comes a lot, but her family was pressuring. You're spending too much time with Thom's group. They count me as her third parent, but they still hold more claim over her than I do. So, all right, guys, I think we better leave. And so great. Stay active on our Slack work group in the channels. We do a lot of helping each other there too during the week. So hope you're finding that valuable. I think Hugo had to go, but he's got some good new stuff going on. He created a new channel